Well. Hello, everyone. Pat down at MMA back with some more DWCS breakdowns. This week we got some week 3 breakdowns and a very unorganized episode. If you couldn't tell, I'm in Las Vegas. I'm actually here covering the Contender series. So go check out all my social medias at Pat down at MMA to go check out my coverage of the events themselves and the weigh-ins and just everything DWCS. I'm here for it. So without further ado, let's get up with these fights this week. We have some very fun fights this week. Some very quick fights. I'm not expecting a lot of these fights to go too far into the distance. I'm really just not expecting a lot of these fights to last too long. Our first fight, we have a very short notice matchup between Dante Johnson and Darian Abbey. Dante Johnson is 5-0. His nickname is Lockjaw. He's 26 years old. He has 5 finishes in his 5 pro wins and just all first round knockouts. I mean, as you can see here, he is just a devastating finisher. He has some massive power in every punch and really just throws all his punches with all his power. He has some really nice switch stances and hides those switch stances well, but he does like to box more in orthodox usually. With that said, his left hand is his most devastating punch. I mean, nice rear left uppercut with that left hand. Johnson has a nice jab and a big overhand right, and usually just likes to leap into range while he throws punches and just kind of wings these punches and uses his reach to really get in there. We don't have an estimate on his reach here, but he does have a pretty nice reach for light heavyweight. However, this fight will be at heavyweight. He has a really nice rear body kick from the southpaw stance as well, and some massive right hooks off the break. He also can throw flying knees and really just loves swarming when his opponent's hurt. He has some very scary ground and pound, and he is very strong, pretty athletic, and has shown solid takedown defense simply through his strength alone. However, he does leave himself open in a lot of these exchanges. There isn't much tape on him. I mean, you only have like 11 minutes of tape in these 5 fights, and that's one of the only real negatives I can find, is that he has left himself open in some of these exchanges. But other than that, he's really just dominating these guys for the most part and taking them out early, albeit lower levels of competition for the most part. Now, moving on to Darian Abbey. Darian Abbey is 7-4 on here, but I consider him 9-4. He actually had 2 bare knuckle MMA fights that don't count on his record officially, but I think they should. They were both against guys who were MMA guys, and it was MMA, just bare knuckle. However, Abbey is 6'6". He is absolutely massive, and just a massive human being in general, to be honest. I met him yesterday, and he is a very big person. He is on a 3-fight winning streak coming into this fight. He knocked out Alex Nicholson in his last fight. In this fight against Patrick Martin, he got dropped very bad. 3 different times in the first 2 rounds. And in this fight against Mark Courier, it wasn't just the best performance overall. I really think he had a lot of opportunities to finish that fight that he kind of let pass. Overall, though, Abbey uses a lot of kicks, a lot of leg kicks, a lot of teep kicks. He likes to manage his range, throws a lot of straight punches, and has a very powerful straight right, and likes to move out of the way. And Abbey uses volume more than power, but he doesn't really rush. He kind of will sit back, stay relaxed, and then let the volume come to him, wait for counters, wait for the opportunity to throw his punches. And overall, Abbey's just more basic on the feet, very technical, good strikes overall, just likes to keep it more technical and basic. Defensively, it's very tough for Abbey because he did get, like I said, got dropped 3 times against Patrick Martin, and he does get clipped moving out of the pocket a lot. He also did get rocked in this fight against Latu, and he gets dropped in exchanges just way too often in these fights. However, he recovers well most of the time, because if you see, he started his career off 2-3, and now you can argue that he's 9-4 if you count these bare knuckle fights. So he's definitely still been taking damage, but he's been able to push through and been able to survive. Abbey also can take the fight down if he needs to, but has minimal grappling on top, just a really solid rear naked choke, some solid ground and pound, but he isn't anything too special on top. He just has some good control overall. But Abbey definitely does get better as the fight goes on. I think he has some really solid cardio. I mean, this fight was 5 rounds. This fight, he basically won with his cardio. So a positive attribute for Abbey is his cardio in this fight. And in this matchup specifically against a guy like Dante Johnson, who's never been past the first round, cardio is going to play a massive role. But the chin is also going to play a massive role as well, and that's what really scares me with this fight. I do think if this fight leaves the first round, I favor Darian Abbey because we just don't know what Dante Johnson is outside of round 1, but I do think that Johnson has a decent chance of catching Abbey in the first round just because of how many times he's been caught by people who I don't consider as powerful, as dangerous, or as good as Dante Johnson. So even though Dante Johnson is very green and probably not ready for the UFC yet, he is still only 26. I do think he has enough power in his hands. When he hits people, they usually do go out, you know? And even though Abbey has a really good chin, he has been knocked out multiple times in his career. So I'd say for this fight, if it goes past round 1, I definitely favor Darian Abbey to actually use his cardio, use his more technical boxing to start to pull away. But I do think Dante Johnson has a decent chance to knock him out in the first round. Now, this next matchup is pretty tough for me when you have match up two guys like Cristian Perez and Manuel Sousa. It really is just going to produce fireworks, and these are two of the top prospects at 155 pounds right now. Kicking off with Cristian Perez first. Perez Puyash is 13-1 from Mexico, 26 years old. He is on a 5-fight winning streak, 5'9", and he trains at a Team Goat Shed. He fought in Combate Global, had a 10-1 record over there. He really hasn't had an MMA fight in about 2 years. He did fight in Karate Combat, but he did lose to John Marquez and had a really rough performance. So that is something to keep an eye on, is the last time we did see him, he wasn't looking great. If I really wanted to go on about Perez and Sousa for a while, I could, but just know they're both so dangerous. I mean, look at Perez, all these submission wins early against decent competition starting out his career. He did lose this fight. I want to say he was out-grappled in this fight against Gonzalez, and it wasn't the best look. I'm pretty sure he was taken down at will in that fight, and it just definitely didn't show me what I wanted to see. Overall, though, he's been working on his striking. He's been really using his hands a lot more to KO people. He's been getting more confident with his style and just becoming a lot more well-rounded overall as he's progressed. The problem is he's been so inactive as of late that we haven't been able to see a lot of this progression. And when you're fighting a guy like Manuel Sousa, it is very scary because Sousa's 12-1, 28 years old. He is only on a 1-fight winning streak. He did lose 2 fights ago to Archie Colgan. However, Archie Colgan's an elite fighter at 155 pounds and would probably beat a lot of UFC lightweights right now. So I don't really think that loss is bad, especially if you watch the fight. It was a close fight. A lot of people thought it could have went either way. I did think Archie won, but I didn't think it was a bad performance from Sousa whatsoever. With Sousa, he is just an absolute brawler. He has amazing counters, constant pressure, and he uses his well-rounded game a lot as well. Like in this fight against Laya, split decision. I did not think the fight was a split decision. However, he used a lot of Kimuras in that fight. Laya, I don't know how his arm didn't break. He must be one of the more flexible people I've ever seen. So, I mean, he does have some very good submissions. He had the Kimura in this fight, and he even knocked out Mauricio Rufy back in 2019. Like, you just see a guy like this is a very, very good fighter. They're both very, very good fighters. And when you match up guys like this, it's going to produce fireworks. Like, no doubt in my mind that this fight produces some kind of fireworks, produces a lot of good entertainment. My only issue is a guy like Cristian Perez. He's been a bit inactive lately, and Sousa hasn't been the most active either as of late in his past couple years, so I guess I really can't use that against him too much. I feel like Perez gets hit a bit too much, and he just doesn't move his head sometimes. Just his underwhelming striking defense overall for someone who has been willing to brawl as much as he has as of late. And I know he still has his submission base to rely on, and that's what he has most of his wins right here by. But at the same time, I do think Manuel Sousa is just going to be stronger in this fight. I think he's fought the better fighters overall, the better competition. Like, you know, he oh my God, that Tim Wild knockout was insane. I mean, just stuff like that. Like, he's really fought some really good competition. I mean, even Richard Martin's, like, he's been a guy that should be in the UFC for a long time. I feel like both of them are. But when you have a fight like this, I feel like a lot of the attributes don't matter. These guys on Dana White Contender Series should just go to war in a very high-level fight. And I do expect Manuel Sousa to get the win in this fight. I do expect him to maybe drag it to a decision, maybe get a late third-round knockout or something like that. But I do think Manuel Sousa is just going to be a little too strong, a little too aggressive, and a little too powerful for Cristian Perez. I feel like Perez's grappling is going to play a big factor in this fight, and if he can implement it and keep Sousa down, it's going to be big. But, you know, I do want to say that Sousa's grappling defense is really good. I thought it looked great against Archie Colgan, and I just think that Manuel Sousa is a guy who I'm personally higher on than Cristian Perez, and stylistically, I think he matches up very well against him. So give me Manuel Sousa, either a late finish or a decision in this fight. For this next fight, I said it last week, but I think there's going to start to be my motto for some of these fights is, if it's not going to last past the first round, in my opinion, I don't think I'm going to spend that much time breaking it down because I don't really see a way this fight goes that far into the distance. So going to the next one, we have Abdulrakhman Yakhyaev, who is 6-0, 24 years old, hailing out of Turkey. And An absolute beast. One of the best light heavyweight prospects on earth, in my opinion. He is just a killer. I mean, he finished Jackie John and Pauline Bagai in his last two fights. Nikolai Kovalenko is a very solid win here. He beat him over 5 rounds in his 4th pro fight, which I think is very impressive. Yakhyaev is a southpaw with a really awkward stance, and he switches stances a bit, uses good punches from both of those stances. He has some really sneaky punches, a sneaky right hook, and he's starting to throw in a lot more in combination now and just get more comfortable with his strikes overall. He's using a lot more hooks and uppercuts and has been developing some really good counter punching. He throws a lot of front kicks, body kicks, and has some really nice knees in the clinch, but he will just run into punches at times. He did get dropped against Kovalenko in that fight, and he can be a bit lazy sometimes overall. He does have some incredible double leg slam takedowns and cage takedowns, though. Super strong once he gets that body lock, and he just has some smothering top control. He works to dominant positions easily and will just finish guys very quickly, as you can tell from his record. Now, the Yusupov fight was actually really interesting. This was a terrible look before the submission. He was getting outstruck, out-grappled. He looked absolutely lost, and then he was able to pull out a triangle choke out of nowhere. Now, Yusupov doesn't seem to be that bad of an opponent, but it was an interesting one for sure. He seems to have improved significantly since that fight, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Not something I think he's going to worry about in this fight, though, especially because a guy like Alex Lorenz is not going to be looking to grapple with him. Alex Lorenz is going to want to throw his fast hands early. He has a very strong jab that he throws into his overhand right, really nice uppercuts and a big straight right hand, and he's just going to come out and blitz with those. 5 knockouts in 6 wins. His only loss by knockout to Darian Abbey, who is also on this episode, of course, as we just broke him down. But with that said, I don't love Lorenz's level of competition. As you can tell, his best opponents have been 6-6, 5-5, 6-4. Just not the best level of competition overall. I don't love how he rushes forward and just kind of forgets about the defensive aspect. He also has a pretty suspect chin. Abbey decimated him in just a couple seconds, 30 seconds there. But he does like to get into wars, and they have been going his way, as you can tell in these fights. Ryan Parker was giving him a lot of trouble, and he finished Parker with a really nice comeback choke with 14 seconds left. So I like to see that. I like to see that he had cardio, he had heart, he had the determination to come from not even behind, because I think it was 1-1 in that fight, but he might have lost if it went to the scorecards there. So that was a lot of determination for sure. Pulled off that great comeback. I really like to see that. And I think he has some really, really big power that he could catch Yakhyaev with early. But a guy like Yakhyaev is just so tough. He is he's one of the, like I said, one of the better light heavyweight prospects right now, and I am going to go with Abdulrakhman Yakhyaev by 1st round finish. I'm going to go with submission probably. I think submission is probably more likely. I just think he'll be able to get on top of Lorenz early. I've seen Lorenz get swept in that Parker fight. He did get swept and put on his back in a bad position, was put in some uncomfortable spots. He did end up getting the comeback win, which maybe it's possible here, but Yakhyaev has went 5 rounds and Lorenz hasn't. Even though I think Lorenz's cardio is good, I don't know if Yakhyaev's is necessarily bad. So Lorenz is going to have to force a very crazy fight that I just don't really expect for this fight to get extended. So I do think Yakhyaev probably will get him down and get him out of there early. Just choose the path of least resistance, because I don't think Lorenz's takedown defense is the best, and I think Yakhyaev will be able to kind of use that area to avoid getting finished and pick up a finish himself. Now, moving on to our co-main event of the evening, we have Marcio Tikoto versus Damon Wilson. Starting off with Tikoto here. He is 27 years old, 16-2 record. He has on a 3-fight winning streak, 13 wins by knockout in his 16 wins of his career. He is just, as advertised, a finisher. All action, ridiculous power. He has some great movement, quick kicks, punishes mistakes with his massive right hand, sharp left hook over the top. He just has relentless pressure when he's swarming. So reckless, but so dangerous. He is really just one of the more fun fighters that they could have brought on to this season. He may not be pound for pound skill-wise the best, but he's going to bring some very entertaining fights. He doesn't have the best grappling overall. I think his takedown defense is better earlier on in fights before he kind of wilts a little bit and lets the cardio get to him, because I don't think he has the best gas tank. A lot of questions outside of round 1. His style kind of just disregards his gas tank, and if you look at his record, all of his finishes are round 1 finishes, 13 round 1 finishes, and his 2 losses are the 2 fights that actually have extended outside of that first round. So he does have some decision wins, but they're really early on in his career against lower level competition, and I don't really see him being able to extend to a decision consistently at higher levels. I do think that he needs to get a knockout in this fight for sure. Now moving on to Damon Wilson, the Nomad. He is 9-2. He spent his entire career in Cage Warriors, and he is 32 years old. Now Damon Wilson has 6 wins by knockout and 3 wins by decision. He doesn't really have many submissions, but he does have some wrestling. He has some nasty knees. Really good clinch knees to the head and the body. He breaks his opponent down with them, and we've seen those. But if you look here at the records of his opponents, the ones he's beating aren't that impressive. I mean, even the ones he's losing to, John De Jesus, good fighter. Tobias Harila, good fighter. Both very good fighters. But the guys he's beating, the records aren't there the same, you know? So I do think a level of competition thing here is in question. Same thing with Barbosa, to be honest, because he hasn't fought the craziest level of competition either, to be quite fair with you. But I do think, you know, Takoto's looked a lot better against the competition that he's fought. But Wilson has some really sharp boxing. He has a pretty sharp straight right hand, no problem getting into a brawl, a nasty right uppercut, and can fight in both stances pretty well. He likes a southpaw right hook, and he, like I said, just has no problem throwing some hands. I don't think his head movement is the best, and he will rely on it sometimes, so I don't think that's great. And I wasn't too impressed with Wilson's gas tank either, to be honest. He should have finished Carrillo in this fight and struggled a bit. He has struggled in round 3 of most of his fights as well, from what I noticed, and he was getting peppered on the feet by John De Jesus. And in the Tobias Harila loss, he just got caught by a big elbow there. Bit unfortunate. I thought he looked pretty good before the finish, but it's still one of those things where both of these guys, I feel like, are going to want to come out there and finish each other in the first round, especially as you can tell, both of these guys have a lot of first round finishes to their name. So I want to say it's 18 first round finishes combined and 25 wins. So I do think this fight is ending in the first round as well. I do think Takoto is going to end up finding Damon Wilson's chin. I wouldn't be shocked if Damon Wilson was able to extend this fight a little bit into round 2, and then we just see Barbosa completely gassed out of nowhere and get KO'd. But with that said, I do think Barbosa is just a lot more dynamic. I think he's really just going to force a very heavy brawl onto Damon Wilson early and probably just eventually make him crack. Wilson only does have one second round finish here, so it's not like he's a big finisher in round 2 either. I think that if this fight goes past round 1, we will see more of a sloppier boxing match and that it's going to be a bit gassed out. I think if Wilson incorporates his wrestling, he could make this fight a bit dirty, but give me Marcio Barbosa here. I think he gets this fight done within the first 5 minutes. Now another one not to waste too much time on for our main event between Ryan Gandra and Trent Miller. Another short notice fill-in here from Trent Miller, who stepped in for Vitor Costa just a couple of days ago because Costa had some visa issues. Very disappointing because I thought Gandra versus Costa was one of my top middleweight fights of the season, to be honest with you. Didn't think crazy highly of either of them, but I definitely thought it was going to be a war. I still think this is going to be a war, just not to the same extent. Just starting off with Trent Miller, just because I didn't get to tape Trent Miller too much in the lead up to this because of the short notice nature. He didn't impress me too much. He went to the 3rd round with Saeed Magomed Abdulrakhman, who was able to reverse him a couple times in that fight. He did use his takedowns to kind of control most of the fight, but he really didn't even deserve to get the stoppage there. I thought the ref had a really weird stoppage and that he should have let the fight keep going, definitely for at least a little bit to see what would have happened, because Abdulrakhman really wasn't in that much danger. In the Dylan O'Sullivan fight, I thought Miller looked okay. He used his wrestling again a little bit and was showing off his pans and his power. He just swings himself into bad positions a lot and rushes in with his head down. The Buddy Wallace fight was one of those where Buddy Wallace, as the fight went on, started to gain on the striking, and then got him to the floor, got the face cranking, ended the fight. Really, with a guy like Trent Miller, he's basically a quick finisher bust in my mind. You know, he's a guy that is going to get a finish in the first 5 minutes or he isn't going to win for the most part. The Dylan Sullivan fight, split decision. I did think it was close, but I did think he won. I didn't think he really impressed me with his cardio, though, and I didn't think he really showed me much outside of the first round in that fight. And same with the Saeed Magomed Abdulrakhman fight. If anything, I thought he might have shown a bit better wrestling in that fight. I did think his takedowns were really well, but I didn't love his scrambles or grappling overall. He just rushes in with his head down and just swings himself into bad positions, but you just can't count out the power that a guy like Trent Miller has in his hands. He is a bit stiff on the feet, but he makes people go stiff as well. He does have some very, very legit power. So if Gandra isn't careful, he can definitely get clipped in this fight. Gandra's 7-1, 30 years old. He's been fighting out in LFA, and I've really liked what I've seen from him, to be honest. I know some people are a bit lower on him or like in the middle on him, but actually he is probably one of my favorite middleweights from this season. I do think he holds a decent amount of potential. I really like his punches, his really clean left hook, some slick punches off the break, and some just really, really good power in his hooks overall. He fires off a rear high kick very well, but he can get overzealous with the boxing and either get taken down or just swing too recklessly and leave himself open to some positions, but he has so much power himself. Like in the Vlad Calvo fight, he put him out bad. With that said, though, I don't think he has the best striking defense overall. So that's definitely something that Trent Miller may be able to exploit. I just don't think Trent Miller is going to be able to find his range and really get in the groove against a guy like Gandra, who is able to explode in the bursts he explodes at and also fight at distance with his kicks and his just very powerful punches the way he does. Gandra also has some pretty nice submissions. He likes his head and arm chokes, arm triangles, darces, and his only loss was actually at heavyweight. He just looked so slow and fat and couldn't handle the power of a heavyweight. His cardio looked super rough in that one decision win against Luis Fabiano. He did get the win in that fight, but he kind of death gassed halfway through round 2, and it's weird because he did go 5 rounds apparently in his pro debut. So if he went 5 rounds there, I'd love to see how that fight looked. I couldn't find it on YouTube or anything, but I'd really wonder how he looked over 5 rounds in that fight if he was so tired over 2.5 in this fight. But I definitely do think Gandra got a very good short notice replacement with this matchup. I think Trent Miller is a guy who is pretty beatable for him. I mean, Miller's only 2 losses are by submission, so it could be very interesting to see if Gandra ends up getting a submission in this fight. It actually wouldn't surprise me too much. I do see an early finish here no matter what. I do think he gets him out of there within the first 2 rounds, almost for sure, and I'd say probably the first round this fight ends by, and I do think Ryan Gandra will end up getting the finish. Whether that is by knockout or submission, I'm still a bit split on. I could see a submission very well, as that's the only way Trent Miller has lost, but I feel like this fight is going to take place on the feet for most of it, and that Gandra is going to catch him with a left hook or something like that. So give me Ryan Gandra by first round finish, but knockout if I really had to pick. And thank you all for watching my week 3 breakdown of Dana White Contender Series. I really hope you all enjoyed, and please stay tuned for my content. If you're watching to this point, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out at Pat Dana MMA on all social media platforms for Dana White Contender Series coverage. Thank you everyone, and I hope you enjoyed.